I've just took a gamble on a 1978 Suzuki X7 barn find on eBay, and I'm about to find out if it was a mistake. After winning this bike for £1,500, I've only seen a few rough photos, but that's it. I have no idea what I'm about to find.
Oh, you said hop over the fence. Oh God.
Hop over the fence. This could be the start of something amazing or the biggest mistake I've ever made.
Leaning against the shed.
Leaning against the oh my gosh, it's behind here. Unbelievable. Hidden all the way at the bottom of the garden, forgotten about, was the Suzuki X7. This is not a very good sign. Oh wow, this is rough. I knew it was going to be bad, but I wasn't expecting this. The engine looks like it hasn't seen a drop of oil in forever. The rust, the grime. It's like nature has been trying to claim this bike. This isn't just a project. This is a full-blown rescue mission.
This took a lot of finding. That was I just found.
That's the original key as well, amazing.
It was my brother-in-law's, and it was in a barn, and then we moved to grandmother-in-law's, and it's been leaning against the shed there under a sheet. And then I had messages after you bought it to say, has it definitely sold?
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I know. I mean,
we don't know motorbikes
right.
at all.
Back in 1978, the Suzuki X7 was a game changer. It was one of the first production bikes to break the 100-mile-an-hour barrier in the 250cc class. People called it a giant killer because it could keep up with the bigger bikes of that era. But that was over 40 years ago. Let's just say this one hasn't seen 100 mile an hour in a very long time. Good grief. That's a mess, isn't it? Right, time to get this thing out of here. The rust, the dirt, the neglect, it's been totally forgotten about for all of these years. Like no one cared enough to even check on it.
If you come further back, I'm going to fall down.
Not that surprising, but because the tyres are completely flat, it's like pushing a ton of bricks. It's quite heavy to push. I wonder if this X7 thinks it's being taken to the scrapyard. But something tells me this bike still has a fight left in it. The real question is, do I? Poor thing, look at the state of it. Every time I look at it, I get more and more concerned that it's going to take me a long time. First time on the road in about 2 decades. So this Suzuki X7 is in a terrible condition. We're going to take a quick walk around and see exactly how bad it is. How this bike has survived all those years forgotten about, I don't know. Corrosion, rust and decay everywhere you look. So bad in fact, I don't think very much is going to be working on this bike. However, what I am surprised about is the fact that none of the wheels are seized up. The gearbox seems to be functioning. I mean, that's in first gear. And then we'll get it back into neutral, I think. No, neutral, hello. Headstock bearings are not obviously seized. The front brake is seized because, well, yeah, it wasn't working when I was wheeling it around. It's very, very rusty, obviously. Very rusty. It's been sat around for so long that not very much in that engine is going to be rotating freely. Plastics hanging off, rust here. I'm a bit worried about the inside of that tank. What is to like about this Suzuki X7? Not very much, but we're going to try and put it right eventually. Come round to the rear of the bike. Look at that very old number plate. Now this is MOT and tax exempt. It's 1978, this bike. 1978. Very old.
Honest opinion? Looks a bit like a pile of shit. There's like rust everywhere. Oh, it's awful.
Yeah, we're going to have our work cut out with this rebuild because I don't know where to start. We've got to do something with it, haven't we? Oh dear, what have I signed up for? You know, there is a fine line between passion project and pure headache, and I might have just crossed it. Alright, so the Suzuki X7 is finally out of that garden and on my ramp. And I'm feeling a little hopeful. Given that this bike has been sat for over 2 decades, the chances of it firing up are pretty slim, right? But we've got to try, haven't we? This Suzuki X7 is far from roadworthy. However, when we finally get it on the open road, it's going to need proper insurance. That's where Bikesure comes in handy. Whether you've got a classic 2-stroke like this X7, a custom build, or any 2-wheeled machine, Bikesure specialises in finding insurance cover that fits you and your bike. What I love about Bikesure is they get it. They understand that bikes like this X7 are more than just machines. In fact, Bikesure have regularly insured bikes that feature on Bikes with Rye. So they really know their stuff. It's great knowing there's an insurer out there that understands your personal needs. I highly recommend you give Bikesure a call to see what they can do for you. Thank you, Bikesure. Now, the previous owner did let on that this bike was running before it was left to, well, essentially die. Time hasn't been very kind, has it? Full of rust, so I have no doubt that inside those barrels, it's full of rust too. 2-stroke engines like this do not like being left very long, let alone decades. And whilst 2-strokes are simple, they can be very fussy. Now I'm going to soak those barrels with some penetrant fluid, and I'm likely going to leave that to soak overnight. Now the next task is to remove these carburetors, and can't get over how bad they are. Look at that. Oh, God. After sitting for decades, I already know what to expect. Old fuel turned into a sticky sludge. If there is any chance of this engine running again, this is where the problems start or where they end. All right, 2 carburetors removed, and golly gosh, don't they look beautiful? Smell like the outdoors. Anyway, let's get to work on cleaning these up. Be interested to see what they're like inside. Based on the condition we found this bike in, I'm not holding out much hope for what I'll find when I strip these carbs. At best, it's just years of old fuel and grime. At worst, well, let's not think about that just yet. Either way, these carbs have a long way to go before they see fresh fuel again. I've never seen anything like it. Where it's been sat for over 2 decades, that's what fuel does to a carb. I mean, look at the state of this float bowl. The main jets, they're all bunged up as well. I don't know what I'm going to do about those just yet, but I'll figure that out. Yeah, shocker. Let's see if this sonic cleaner can do some magic, because these carbs are going to need it. As that sonic bath is working its magic, the other thing I need to check is the penetrating fluid, because I left it to soak in these barrels, and I'll now find out if those pistons are freed off or not. No. No. 4th, 5th, 6-speed boxes, isn't it? I'm not sure that's going to work, to be honest. Let me put it back into neutral. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this heat gun and I'm just going to apply a lot of heat to this head, and we'll see if that does anything. I mean, I'm just improvising, I'm thinking outside of the box. Well, I think it's pretty obvious stuff really, isn't it? Heating, metal, it expands, but it's quite a large chunk of aluminium. Should heat up quite quickly. Let's give it a whirl. If the barrels expand, it might just be enough to lessen the grip that the barrel has on the piston and rings. I'm not so hopeful now. Been outside for 2 decades, so what do you expect? Yes, let's not forget, this is how we found it. Oh, poor thing, look at it. How would you feel if you were left at the bottom of the garden for over 20 years? Probably feeling very seized up too. But we're not going to give up, are we? No, we're not. Oh dear, so I'm really disappointed because I've discovered that the camera was in the incorrect mode the past 15 minutes, and in the meantime what I've gone and done is I've removed the head, and it's looking like it's in pretty good nick. Same goes for the barrels actually as well. Have a look at this. So of course I've been in there in the meantime and I've got to work cleaning them up, but they don't look too shabby, you know. This is the part where I find out just how bad things really are. No signs of any movement. They are seized solid. What to do next? What to do next? Left outside for decades, rain, rust and time have all done their work. I think I've been a little bit naive thinking I'm going to get this running in this upload. I'm sort of starting to feel that it's less about getting it running and more about figuring out if it will run again. And I'll have no doubt that there will be somebody in the comments,
I'd have that running in 5 minutes.
Well, be my guest, because right now those pistons are not moving a smidge. Change of plan. Do you know what? It was wishful thinking that we were going to start this Suzuki X7 up, because the more I look at it, the more I unfold, it is in a very bad way. So what we're going to do is I'm going to strip this Suzuki X7 down. The sooner we do that, the sooner we can get it started. And also I'm very interested to see what those barrels are like, if we can remove the barrels. So we'll get to that in a moment, but yeah, let's just start pulling it apart. Damn, no miracle startup happening today. I guess if this bike is ever going to run again, it needs more than just a bit of tinkering with. Hit the subscribe button. I suppose it is a shame though, because I was really hoping to hear even the faintest sign of life from this two-stroke twin. But those pistons are locked up like they've been welded into place. And let's be honest, after sitting outside for over 2 decades, you'd certainly need a damn miracle to hear this running. Isn't it wonderful to see a 2-stroke tank on a motorcycle? I cannot wait for the day to top this up with some fresh 2-stroke oil, start the X7 and smell those wonderful fumes. Which reminds me, I'm going to put a link on this screen to my Patreon page. Please check it out. If you subscribe to my Patreon and help support this channel, help support this journey, I'm going to give one of you lucky Patreon supporters a chance to win this Suzuki X7 once it's finished. Yes, I'm going to give it away. So all you need to do, check out my link. It's either £5 or £10 a month. And a way of me saying thank you is to give this bike away, as I say, once it's complete. Anyway, we are very close to removing the engine. I mean, I guess it's pretty standard back in the day, but this is the 2-stroke oil pump. Depending on the throttle input, will determine how much oil that forces through those 2 tubes and they collect on the inlet there. So as the air and fuel's coming through the carb, there's also little squirts of 2-stroke oil. I'm also picking up on the fact that there's quite a few bolts, nuts, loose. I was expecting more of a challenge, but it's going quite smoothly so far. Now we've got to take this engine out. Let's get this engine out. This 250 smoker has clearly seen better days. It's not going to be an easy fix this, but then again, I didn't expect it to be. Before we get stuck into this engine, I do want to make sure that this whole Suzuki X7 is in bits, because this, well, I don't even know how I'm going to get these barrels off yet. These are going to give me one hell of a headache. So before I get disheartened, let me get the rest of the Suzuki X7 broken down into loads of little bits. Every bolt, every screw, every last rusted part, it all has to come off. There's no saving this bike as it is, so the only way forward is to strip it back to nothing and start again. It's strange, when you take a bike apart like this, you start to see its entire history. You start to feel its pain. The worn down bolts, the modifications from past owners, the rust eating away at it like a virus from years of neglect. It all tells a story, and right now, this story isn't a pretty one. Some parts come off easy, others fight me every step of the way, almost like the bike doesn't want to let go of the past. But with every stubborn bolt I crack loose, every corroded piece I remove, I'm undoing years of decay and getting one step closer to giving this X7 a second chance. There's certainly a long road ahead, and honestly, I still don't know how bad things are going to get when it comes to the engine. But at this point, there's no turning back. And there we go, the Suzuki X7 is stripped to a bare frame. It was left to rot at the bottom of a garden for 2 decades, but not any longer. What we need to do now is get this engine apart. The thing with this engine is they are quite delicate. I mean, it's aluminium, so I need to be careful. Still a bit concerned about those barrels. I don't know how I'm going to get them off yet. I'm going to have to kind of cross that bridge when I get to it. Well, I'm kind of at that bridge, aren't I? Let's be honest. But yeah, I'm going to take my time. Engines might seem simple from the outside, but once you start pulling them apart, you realise just how many things need to work in perfect harmony. Seals, bearings, gears, everything has a job, and after sitting for over 2 decades, there is no telling what is still salvageable. Rust doesn't just sit on the surface, it can work its way inside, seizing up parts that were once free to move. Oil breaks down, moisture creeps in, and before long, metal that should be smooth is pitted and scarred. Every bolt I turn is a question mark. Will it come free, or will it snap? Will this part clean up, or is it beyond saving? You know, I don't know why I just didn't begin this way, but I've got a goddamn engine stand. I can't believe I forgot to use this engine stand. Sometimes, when you're in the thick of it, pulling parts apart and just focusing on the task at hand, you completely forget that you've got these tools or little luxuries at your disposal. It's like you're in the zone, and everything else fades into the background. But the truth is, I'm incredibly lucky to have this workshop. Having this space means I can take on projects like this Suzuki X7 without feeling cramped or restricted. It makes stripping bikes, even ones that haven't seen the light of day in decades, so much easier. And the best part, every time I run into a challenge, I learn something new. Every bolt that won't turn, every part that's seized up, it's a chance to understand how these bikes really work and how I can make them run again. I think that's one of the things I love most about working on these projects. It forces you to problem solve. Every issue I run into, every part that doesn't want to budge is just another opportunity to learn and grow. Honestly, every problem is kind of a blessing. Without them, I won't be improving. And that's what makes it all worthwhile. We now need to remove those barrels, and I don't know how I'm going to remove them. Getting these barrels off is going to be tricky. Normally, this would be a simple job, but the longer this bike has been left to rot, the harder it's going to be to get anything moving. These barrels are actually separate, so maybe we can lift off this one with any luck. The piston's lower down in the barrel, so it's below the ports, less material for the piston ring to stick to. Oh, I think this one's going to come off. Oh baby! Baby, baby, baby. So it's this one that's the issue. Yeah, little trouble you. This is going to be a test of patience and honestly, a bit of luck. There's always a way through though, it's just a matter of finding it, no matter how long it takes or how stubborn the parts are. Christ, that is in there solid. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the studs and then I'm going to try and twist the barrel on that piston and see what happens, see if I can crack it loose. If not, I'm going to have to break the piston to get this barrel off because I'm going to replace the pistons anyway, so I might have to resort to that. But yeah, let me try and remove those 4 studs and see what happens. Sometimes it feels like you are fighting the bike itself, stubbornly resisting every move you make. The harder you push, the more it feels like it's pushing back, almost as if it doesn't want to be fixed, like it's saying, I'm not going down without a fight. Like magic. Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, lovely. Oh, it's wonderful, it's beautiful, it's all things excellent. Oh, I love it. Oh, what a day. Might be able to snap it loose. It's not happening, is it? I'm gonna have to break the piston, smash it out of there. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Come on. Almost there, yes! It's like the rings have become one with the piston. That is incredible. I mean, there were some extremes we had to go to in order to get these barrels off. It was quite crude, wasn't it? I must admit, but it worked. Now we can strip the rest of this engine down. With the engine almost stripped, at least now we know where we stand. No more guessing, just a long road ahead to bring it back to life. What do you reckon then? Do you remember when we picked that X7 up?
Oh, is that the bike?
That's the bike. That's the engine.
Oh, it's not as bad as... Oh, out here is really bad.
It's not bad. Do you know the pain?
Inside.
The pain I've gone through to strip this bike down.
I'm talking about the inside. This all looks pretty shiny.
But it's come a long way, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Are you impressed?
Very rusty. Very impressed. Didn't doubt you in the slightest.
I'm a professional. This was how we found it. Forgotten, rusted, and no use to anyone. And now it's in bits. But this isn't the end of the road. This is just the start.